Hello and welcome to Stephen University. This week we're discussing When It Rains, and this is also the fourth part in what we are dubbing our tired quadrilogy.
Well, also, I think the big thing you've missed off is Merry Christmas.
Yes,
You're only 2 days away from Christmas Eve.
we are.
Merry
Isn't that
Christmas.
crazy to think that's when this?
Yeah.
Because I think on our original schedule, this episode would have gone out like sometime in like August next year or something. It was, the 1 a week schedule.
Yeah.
But
Before bombs, before twice a week, before
before all of that schedule sort of shifts.
Hope whatever you're doing is grand, and have a good Christmas. If we don't say it later, Merry Christmas.
Yeah. I forgot.
Happy holidays.
Yeah, I think part of the reason we've chosen to do this one thing was just so we could remember to do that.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. So 22nd December. Enjoy your Christmas. We'll be back pretty much straight after it. I think we have an episode on the 26th of December.
Really?
So, yeah. Anywho, so this one's When It Rains. So it's sort of like the follow up to Catch and Release. So in that episode, Chris, they caught Peridot. And then she got released. And in this episode, it rains. Thanks, everyone. We'll speak to you next week.
We said we were tight for time.
Great discussion.
See you later.
We're not. We're fine. We got all the time in the world. All right, go.
Yeah. So
what's the plot?
So I said before it started, Dan was like, "You excited?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I said, I'm just intrigued about whether it's going to become like some kind of bathroom-based sitcom. So that was my prediction. Instead, so Peridot's still in it. She won't talk to the gems, but she's got a relatively decent relationship with Stephen where he's allowed in. And we find out later she's even like borrowing his toothbrush.
Which is strange.
Because
she didn't know what a toothbrush was. What use would she have
I
for
get
it?
the feeling like she doesn't need to clean her teeth either.
I don't think gems need to clean. I think because they're projections from a gem, aren't they?
They're
basically they don't have physical form the same way.
It's weird.
Yeah. Maybe she's just using it to like fling it about the she's flicking stuff off it, like springing it back. I don't know.
Maybe it clearly wasn't too grim, otherwise because he kept using it.
Yeah, he's still using it. It's true.
Who knows?
Maybe one day he'll buy her own toothbrush. It'll be a real sweet moment.
So they're interrogating her while presumably Stephen's taking a shit, and
the episode doesn't play it that way. The episode they're interrogating her, and then there's a toilet flush. Like they reveal it in that order.
So Steve, what do you do in that scenario? You must my phone.
What did you knock over?
My phone.
Is it okay, Chris?
It's okay, and it's on flight.
I'm just double check that mine is. Yes, mine's fine.
So
also on flight.
They go out and the gems leave to try and investigate on their own. Peridot comes out, starts chatting to Stephen about the rain because she thinks it's the end of the world because it's raining. Stephen explains what rain is, probably more eloquently than I could explain what rain is, I have to say. I wouldn't. Wow, that was louder than I thought it would be. Did you not? Okay, don't worry.
Did you just fart, Chris?
No, Dad. How dare you? How dare you?
That's amazing. Well, the worst part is that would be just funny and nothing else in a normal circumstance where we're not in the same room. But now I'm concerned about the follow-up.
That you might get it.
Yeah. I need to blow my nose. You carry on talking. I'm going to quickly blow my nose. It's a bit rude, but I feel stuffy.
Okay.
So you carry on.
Kick
the table. Yeah, it's fine.
Kick the table. This is great. Aren't you glad we powered through and made it a tired quadrilogy?
Why not?
So she explains about the rain. She takes that as him having a real understanding of the Earth, so decides to show him the cluster. It becomes apparent that the cluster is loads of gem shards melded together, so it's one big gem shard monster, basically, and it's going to grow to a size that it bursts through and destroys the Earth. Stephen's like, you got to tell the gems. They're like, no. More putty gems appear. They try and fight them. They can't because Stephen's just kind of got his bubble ability. He's also got a shield, but he could throw that. Captain America does a lot with a shield. Stephen, step it up.
Yeah, but he's always been a defensive gem, isn't he? He's not. He's not. That's why he has Connie. He's not much for the offense.
Yeah,
which is why he then says to Thingy that they need the crystal gems.
Crystal gems then appear through the warp machine, presumably, and they fight them off. And she decides that she will ask for their help. The summary. Thought it was good. Thought it was action packed. Thought there was some good visuals. Thought the When It Rains stuff was quite good. Good wanky. Her slowly...
Good wanky.
Yeah, like, when something's wanky, like, it's a little bit pretentious. Like, oh, come on, dude. There's a close-up of her hand, like...
Going out into the rain.
Reaching out into the rain.
Oh, I don't know that, yeah.
I like it, though.
I didn't find it particularly wanky,
It's not a criticism. It's good pretentious. I thought it was arty. So I thought that was quite nice.
I just thought it was a nice character moment.
Yeah.
I think it's a...
Well, I think they can't... If they are going to do a she becomes, like, good, you can't do that without readdressing her appreciation of the Earth. And it felt like that was her beginning to potentially appreciate the Earth.
Well, what was interesting about that, and I think what's interesting about this whole situation in general is, if that's the goal, if the goal is good paradise, if it's a redemption arc, if that's where they're going, this is the cleverest way to do it, because essentially they've not manufactured, but the story is designed in a way that's given them a reason to have to work together.
Yeah.
She's now trapped on Earth, so she has to stop the cluster now to save her life.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily that she's on side with the gems, it's just that their goals have aligned.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't want the cluster to go off now because she's stuck on Earth. If she wasn't on Earth, she wouldn't give a crap.
Yeah.
Let the cluster go off. Who cares? It'll take out those crystal clods, as she would say. Self-preservation has led her to sort of this situation where now Stephen has convinced her quite correctly that they're going to need to work together. And at the end of the episode, very powerful moment, in my opinion, it's the first time she actually refers to them as the crystal gems.
Yeah, she goes to refer to them as clods and catches herself and kind of says, "Oh no, gems."
Yeah, which is, I think, your crystal gems. Like, it's a really good moment. I think it's really important. She's also stopped calling Stephen Stephen. Like, he's like, that's his species. She now realises that's his name. Yeah. But she makes then this... now she's finally corrected that. She then refers to his dad as a dad.
Yeah.
We'll speak to this dad.
Which it made me wonder. I was like, Christ, are they going to go to Greg? Like that? Like, that would be quite amusing.
Yeah. I mean, Peridot and Greg does seem like an amusing combination. Yeah. I like that idea. So I think that there's a lot to be said for how clever this is. Because even if that's not the goal, and she goes back to being a villain or an antagonist, villain's probably the wrong word for this show. I don't think there's such a thing as villains in this show. I think they're all antagonists.
Because you can see both sides.
Yeah, because they have just different goals and requirements. They're not necessarily bad. They're not out to hurt. They just don't understand. They don't understand about humanity being, to them, humanity is a bacteria that exists on a rock they're using. Do you know what I mean? It's not the same. Yeah. So you sort of they're not villainous in the way that traditional villains are. They tend to have. So I always think of them more as antagonists than villains. But if that's the goal, if that's not the goal, that to get her on the good side, and she's going to go back to that, this is still a great way to get a chance to characterize Peridot. Spend some time with her in a situation where they have to work together, because then you're going to get to know her a bit more. They're going to get to talk to her. They're going to, it's a great way to characterize someone who will then, because either way it goes, this is a genius move. Whether she's going back to being an antagonist or whether she's going to become sort of more on the gem side in the future, it's really clever to do it this way, because no matter what happens at the end of it, you'll know her so much better.
Yeah. And you'll just get that appreciation for whatever she's doing either way.
100%, and 100% credit as well to the voice actress, whose name I've forgotten in the immediate moment, but the lady that voices Peridot, it does a stunning job in these two episodes, transitioning her from threatening to kind of funny.
But the animation, and they've done a really good job of turning her into a child, turning her into an upset child who's yelling that she hates her parents through the locked bathroom door. Like, that's such as an idea that's so typically parent to child.
Yeah. And there's a few other hints of other stuff as well. So, like in this episode, Peridot asks Stephen if he's from another planet, which confirms that gems have colonized potentially other planets. The fact that she thinks it's a possibility he wasn't born from the Earth kindergarten suggests there are kindergartens on planets distant to ours, which makes sense. Something you could have guessed, but it's nice to have it confirmed. She also immediately recognised he was some sort of quartz, which I thought was interesting.
Oh yeah.
She was like, "So what are you?" So she says she refers to him as some kind of quartz formed in the Earth kindergarten, and then he corrects her and says, "Actually, I'm rose quartz." And human, and also her response to "you're a hybrid" suggests that
That's never happened before.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's not like there's gem hybrids out there elsewhere on other planets. This is a real surprise to the gems.
I'm assuming
to the
what they
gems,
did then is at some point we get an episode called The Ballad of Rose and Greg, and it would have made fans go crazy. Because they'd have been like, it's got to be that episode. Because he obviously, it's such an obvious thing to do. And that would have just made people lose their minds.
She asks about that, doesn't she?
Yeah, and he says, I describe it as the Ballad of Rose and Greg. So you'd just be waiting for that now.
So the cluster is at the core of the Earth. And in the map that she shows of where it's located, it seems to be located under what looks like a continent shaped like North America, because obviously the world of Steven Universe is not quite our world, but it's similar in many ways. And the continent that the cluster is clearly under does look very America-y, although it probably isn't America as we know it, because this is like an alternate history where gems discovered this planet well before humans got there.
Yeah.
So our history and the shape of the planet and the way that culture has evolved is completely different. This episode ends without the star or iris close.
Yeah, which I noticed that. Is that
you did notice that?
One of the first to do that, or
absolutely one of the first to do that. But they do I've noticed on the wiki page for this that they said that the reason for that might very well be that this episode leads directly into the next one, so there's just a little link. Well, whereas there's a bit of time has passed, I suppose, between When It Rains and Catch and Release. Yeah. But it's weird because I actually see Catch and Release and When It Rains as more of a two-parter than this one and the one after it. Right. And even though that one must obviously immediately carry on from where they are currently, according to that, which I don't really remember 100%, but you can't remember the exact start point of a story, I suppose.
Yeah, of course.
Because this feels like a really clean arc, because this is catch Peridot and find out what it is she knows, and it's an arc that plays out over those two episodes, and it's I see them as sort of one story.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Whereas I think the next episode is the next step of that story, which is it's a shift. We've now done the arc of her coming around to the fact she's gonna have to work with the crystal gems, because and they do a great job in this episode demonstrating how ineffective Peridot is now without her limb enhancers.
They paint a really clear picture of that.
They have her trying to go down the cliff. She slid down before very easily with her limb enhancers, and this time she stumbles and falls, and they collapse, and they roll all the way down to the bottom. They have her trying to use the control panel, but it's too high for her. So they've really shown that she's now in a situation where not only is she trapped on this planet, but she's actually very powerless to do anything about it. She's really putting her in a situation where she is forced to work with these gems she hates. I think that's going to lead to some good stuff going forward. She's also extremely been shown as not just the falling over in the panel thing, but also she couldn't even move that panel as well. She's also very weak now. Steven has to pull off that panel thing as well. So yeah, they've really done a good job of characterizing.
Setting that up.
Yeah, 100%. This is the second time Garnet has told Steven that she loves him.
Yeah, quite. It's very sweet, but almost random to the point where I was like, "Is that going to come back? Is that some sort of future vision thing that she's putting in place?" Well,
we talked a lot about Garnet suddenly becoming a lot more affectionate to Steven. It's come up a bunch of times. And we're getting constant comments about it now on the YouTube page, because those episodes are airing where we talked about that first, saying it's Garnet's universe. He tells a story that depicts a Garnet that's much more open to verbalizing her affection for Steven. And what people are saying is that Garnet realized then that even though she always did feel that way about him and has always sort of loved him and looked after him, she wasn't sharing that.
Yeah.
And that maybe left him feeling a little bit like less loved than he should have done. So it seems like since that episode, she's made a concerted effort to point. I know you don't like that episode, Garnet's Universe.
No, I don't like that episode. I also think, and I think that makes sense, I think that is it. But also, you could even, it's a bit fansplaining, but because they do randomly show up at the end. After I finished watching it, I was like, I quite like to think that Garnet had a bit of future vision, was putting him in a very loving, warm place. She knew that would make him be warm to Peridot, and she knew Peridot would then lead them there, and they would go and save
Yeah,
it.
maybe. But that makes it slightly, to me, that makes it, and I think that does make a lot of sense. But it's a slightly more cynical version of it, because then that means she's just telling him he loves him to get the information she wants, which takes the sweetness out of the moment. But because the way they set it up in this episode, it's really beautiful. They're about to leave, and she goes, "Oh, and Stephen, one more really important thing." He's like, "Yeah," and she's like, "Love you," and then she goes away. And it's really nice. It's really nice. And I would be sad to think that was purely done out of tricking Stephen into being nice to Peridot. And also, I don't think you need to trick Stephen to be nice to Peridot.
No, true.
Stephen. He was always going to do that. But I really like this episode. I think you're right. I think you've done a nice hint as well at Peridot maybe sort of appreciating the Earth and its
I think
splendor.
I think that's potentially a good thing to start putting into place and feeding in.
Yeah, I think so. And the only other time, by the way, that Garnet has said the "I love you" to Stephen was in Jailbreak, but she said "we love you" or "we already love you."
We already love you.
Yeah.
It's a very sweet moment as well.
Another great moment. This is the second time we've seen Garnet use electricity powers.
Yeah, I'm glad because I was like, I don't think she's used them that often.
No, in these two episodes are the first two times we've seen them. They're really good though. They're cool.
Yeah, they're cool.
She used them to help capture Peridot the previous episode, and she used them in this episode. And this is an interesting point: is notice that Pearl and Amethyst got quite up close to attack the cluster gem things they were fighting, these sort of weird fusion gems. But Garnet stayed at a distance and took hers out from a distance with her electricity powers, which I think it bothers her.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to get close to it. I think it really does affect her. So I think
they've
really
done a great job of explaining, justifying.
Yeah, they've earned that, and even though that's not explicitly stated in this episode, it's nice that you can pick up on stuff like that.
Yeah,
it's all there.
Yeah.
So that's like the basic stuff. So anything like what other thoughts from yourself? I feel like I've talked a lot this week, this episode.
No, I just think it's cool. I think 7 away from the finale. I want to see this cluster story and how they actually do stop it.
So is that what you think this is leading to? You think the final of this is going to be cluster based? It does seem to end roughly on a bomb. Did we figure that out last week? Did it just definitely end with a bomb?
I think so.
I need to look that up.
Unless the cluster happens, they stop it, and then Yellow Diamond appears, and is like, "What the hell? What is going on here?" Because they've been building this Yellow Diamond thing up as well. So it would make sense for us to see her, and that would be a reason to make her come.
Yeah.
So there's that. I'd still want the whole town to be involved in the fixing. That would be cool. But that's moving forward. In terms of this episode, I just thought some really nice character stuff with both of them. Some nice Stephen character stuff. And I like the fact that it was right to have Stephen be the one to turn Peridot round, but I like the fact that he also turned her round to talking to the gems, which I didn't necessarily expect. I expected her to give him information, but I think the temptation might have been to have us flip-flop of like Stephen's the middleman for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I like that they didn't go down that route.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's like earned as well, because it's sort of like it's from a practical perspective now. The episode puts them in a situation where they need to get out of it, and the only way out is with the gems. And doing something like that, you go, oh, so she's just being logical. Because it'd be out of character for her to just go fine and tell them. So to put her in a situation where she sort of has to be honest with them and say like, oh, okay, yeah, I really do need to work with you guys. It sucks. I don't want to do it, but I have to, because I've just had it proven to me that I'm incapable of looking after myself in this situation. These cluster fusion monsters
and she doesn't want to get destroyed when the planet's destroyed.
Yeah, so they've really set it up pretty perfectly. Really, again, another very funny episode. So much, I laughed a lot during this one. I had a good time. I don't know. Are we dying, Chris? Are we running out of things to say?
I think we've just given, instead of 20 minutes of summary and 10 minutes of crap, we've given
just the 20 minutes.
The 20 minutes of summary.
Yeah, so it's 20 minutes of just.
Don't worry, guys. The crap's coming back. If you could get very quickly, if you could get one gem, if you had to pick a gem to get you a Christmas present, which gem are you picking?
The answer to that question, I can tell you the answer, but I can't give my reasoning until later on.
Okay, go for it.
Is that weird?
Yeah, no, it's fine.
I know, I can say it, but it won't mean anything to you.
Okay.
It'll be Peridot for Meep Morps. Now, everyone listening knows what I'm talking about, but you're confused.
Okay. I'd pick Stephen. Stephen Stephen gets to know his peeps.
He'd get you a good present. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
And we have a similar view on food. Teddy bears, and Stephen could nail me a gift.
Yeah. I think there's a little bit of Stephen in you. I mean, there's a little bit of Stephen in all of us, Chris. But I think particularly you've got an ex. I'm realizing more and more as we watch more and more that you and Stephen actually have a weird there's a few links there.
Fair play. There you go.
And your dad's not called Greg, and you're not half Gem, and you're not saving the world from monsters.
No.
And okay, less links.
But
than I thought.
other than that, it's the same.
Spot on.
We both like food and backpacks.
And teddy bears.
Teddy bears.
Not video games. He loves video games. You don't like video games?
Not a video game guy. No,
not a video game guy.
No.
So we've given you about a minute of the crap.
Was it worth it?
No, you're right. Because it's like 20 minutes worth of succinct discussion wrapped around bullshit for about 5-10 minutes, depending on how much bullshit we give. Whereas what being tired has done is made us go, let's not make this overrun.
If you guys are sat there thinking, I'd rather just the 20 minutes of concise feedback, we're not going to do that, so don't tell us that.
Yeah,
don't bother letting us know that.
I know, it's sad.
You're going to get the crap.
Because the thing is...
Crap's back next week, guys.
Crap's back. High five, Chris. That's a pretty good high five. Yeah, it was a good high five. It's the benefit of being in the same room.
Yeah.
For 4 episodes in a row.
Yeah, 4 episodes now. Yeah.
Wow. But I think that the thing of this podcast is we do it naturally. We have the conversation the way we would have the conversation if you were watching the show and catching up, and you were just calling me to be like, Dan, I just watched this one, and we were having... This is pretty much how it would play out. Slightly more structural, but not... I mean, we try to keep it as loose as possible, and that does mean tangents. And if the tangents are like annoying people, I am sorry. It's just that's always been our podcast. Yeah. We were a little better at early days of this, at keeping it a bit more focused. But as we've gone in, we've
I think
settled
like
a bit into our
episode lengths, and I think it's...
Well, we'll find out. I don't know. We've not really gotten to that because people are only just starting to notice the episode length ballooning at the point we're at now. So we'll have to see how it works. Because we generally speaking, early on we had a pretty good balance, but I think we've rebalanced it to be slightly more casual now. And I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. But the problem is because we're recording so far ahead, it won't matter.
Yeah.
Because by the time these episodes air, we'll be well ahead, and it'll have been 20 episodes of shit before we can fix it anyway.
So that's what I mean. Just don't let us know.
Yeah, it's waste of time. Sorry, guys. We tried. We do try. We want you guys to enjoy it.
Yeah.
But this is just it. It's just us talking.
But this is just a weird...
It just turns out how it turns out.
This is a weird self-evaluation pit.
Well, people have
got Christmas shopping to do, Dan. They don't want to...
That's also very Nothing But Static, though, isn't it?
Yeah. We do this less on Nothing But Static. Every other week we analyse our own podcast.
It's ridiculous. On the podcast.
On the podcast.
Time. Yeah. But yeah, so enjoy Christmas. Hope you're all looking forward to the Doctor Who Christmas special.
Right.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm hoping, because I'm at the end of... I say it, oh God, I could be in the middle of, God knows. We're in a very deep Steven Universe hiatus now, and I'm having Steven Universe withdrawal symptoms. It's not acceptable. We're recording this on the 5th of October. And I mean, you guys are hearing this in December, which is nice. Pray for me, and hopefully you guys have seen some new Steven Universe, because I am absolutely dying. It's been months and months and months, and I'm just... Last year was the summer of Steven. This year was the summer of no Steven. There was no Steven this summer, and I want more Steven.
Fair enough. Yeah. So hopefully your Christmas wish will come true.
And I'll have some Steven.
You'll have some more Steven.
Yeah, and people listening to this will know if that's happened or not.
Yeah.
But New York Comic Con's a couple of days away. There is a Steven Universe panel, and I'm hoping they're going to announce when it's coming back. You know, that's the problem is with this hiatus. It's the not knowing. If someone just said to me, "Oh, it's coming back in January next year. It's coming back in 2019, whatever," just say it. I don't even care. The time could be years ahead, and I just go, "Okay, fine. Now I know. I can just." Put it out of my mind until I know it's due. But this, waiting for it. And what Cartoon Network like to do is they just wait, and then they just drop 40 episodes, and you're just like, what the fuck happened?
Yeah, I don't think that's a good model.
Yeah, so last year, the Summer of Steven thing was ridiculous. We got, 2 seasons, or a season and a half worth of stuff in, 8 weeks or something stupid. It was ridiculous. They put too many episodes out. So, they were all great episodes, and it was lovely to have such regular Steven, but then we got these big dry spells. Yeah. Spread it out a bit more, Cartoon Network. Yeah. If you had a piece of toast, Chris, and I daubed a big old lump of jam in one corner of it, and it made you eat the piece of toast without spreading that jam over the toast, you'd be annoyed. You'd have the jammiest bite in the world, and then dry, boring toast.
I'm not even that big a fan of jam on toast, so...
But that'd be annoying, right?
That would be annoying.
Yeah. Carry Network, sort your life out.
Yeah.
Anywho, that's everything for this week. We'll, of course, be back on the 26th, just after Christmas. We'll see you on what we in the UK call Boxing Day.
Which we've still not established whether the US do. But
I'm pretty sure they don't.
Fair enough.
I'm gonna be bold and say they do not, Chris.
Okay.
I'm double checking the title of the next episode because it just occurred to me. I don't have it in front of me. So we'll just have an awkward pause here while I'll look that up.
Jingle bells, jingle bells, jingle bell rock.
Oh, we've dated this episode now, haven't we? I've got it. Okay, you ready?
Yep.
I've been Dan Doolan.
I've been Chris Billingham.
Have a great Christmas, and we'll see you on Boxing Day, the 26th of December, as we discuss Back to the Barn. And it won't be part of our tired quadrilogy. We'll be
refreshed. Actually, we won't. We're recording that one pretty early as well.
Yeah, we wouldn't have been up so late the night before.
Yeah, that's true.
And we wouldn't have done 4 podcasts.
That's true.
5, 6. How have we done now in this morning? We've recorded 5 this morning.
5, yeah.
Because we recorded a Fringe as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, fun. We're still talking. Bye!
Bye!